I thought 2020 was going to be the year I got everything I wanted. I realize now that 2020 taught me to appreciate everything I have. Author unknown, but memeified and trending. Hello and namaste, friends. It is Monday, December 28th, 5:50 p.m. Oh, it is. I thought I woke up and it was Tuesday. I really seriously did. I thought it was 5:50 a.m. right now. I was like, man, I got up really early. It was not, I swear to you, hands on a stack of holy books. It was not until just now that I read the date and time to you that I realized, oh, it's still Monday. I didn't sleep through the night. I woke up feeling so refreshed. I had sat down to do some meditation a little earlier, and I often lay down and take a nap afterwards. I usually break up my meditation into two sections: sitting, and then getting up, stretching a little bit, and then laying down, and letting a meditation lead me into a nap. I get criticized for that, but it's what I do, it's how I do it. Anyways, I feel silly. I seriously thought it was Tuesday. So, not a lot has changed. And I feel kind of ridiculous, because now I have to, it's like waking up and realizing that you weren't in the future. You're stuck in the past. And now I have to catch up to my own imagination. Okay, so what to talk about then? I was going to talk about something, and then I realized as I was getting ready to get on the air that it's better suited for a different segment. And I didn't want to go back and change the graphic and change the title. So I just ran with it. And I was like, I'm just going to talk about interesting things and see if there's something new for today. But we're pretty much, I don't know. I honestly woke up thinking it was tomorrow. So I don't know if that much has changed today. But from everything I scanned, just kind of scan through, they're just regurgitating all the same things they were talking about yesterday morning, which is really this morning. The one bit of news I guess I should double check. Yes, the House did indeed flip-flop on its own obstructionism. Sorry, not the House. I'm silly. It's because I'm out of whack and didn't sleep as much as I thought I did. So apparently the House has voted to increase the stimulus checks to $2,000. And to override the veto on the defense bill by Trump. According to the latest headlines I'm catching now, it seems like what I last heard earlier today, right before I passed out, was that the Senate was going to take up the House's bill and potentially vote on it. And I could be wrong, because I'm not a journalist. I'm a performance artist. But to the best of my understanding, when Trump finally signed the existing bill, which was delivered to him at, I believe, Mar-a-Lago, or it might be that other place in Jersey whose name I can't ever remember or pronounce correctly. But he was definitely at one of his own golf courses when this piece of legislation arrived for his signature and sat on a desk, presumably, neglected and ignored. I don't know how that is making America great again. I don't know how Trump golfing more than Obama after bitching and moaning about how much golfing Obama does is making America great again. What I do know is that his stunt caused the unemployment bonus payment to run out, to time out. So now there's been a gap for people. While now the machinery's got to fire back up again now that the bill has finally been signed. Apparently, and I didn't catch this directly from Trump, but there was a lot of talk that he was going to redline. He was going to sign it, but make redline corrections. To the best of my understanding, that's not how it works. To the best of my understanding, if you're going to negotiate on a bill, you do that before they send it to your desk at the White House to sign it. And for 9 months, Trump pussyfooted around and basically ignored the issue, except for making some contradictory claims and both wanting to, to lower the cost of the bill and complaining about frivolous spending, and also, occasionally making statements that qualify as, quote, fighting for the little guys. There's a lot else going on in the world. Apparently almost 120,000 ceiling fans had to be recalled because of a deadly detaching blade scenario. That's fun. And something I find interesting, and I don't know where the mistake is, but a little while back I saw a lot of content on social media about how China had created a, quote, artificial sun. I haven't looked into it. It seemed a bit silly, and it seemed a bit improbable. I'm looking at a headline from Popular Mechanics, and what's fascinating isn't that this artificial sun is being confirmed for me here, and it isn't, that is a bit astonishing. I'm like, wait, that doesn't seem very possible in terms of how do you contain that? But how do you, in what sort of imaginary sci-fi energy field do you generate that much gravity without destroying the Earth? I don't understand. The sun is, of course it is a tiny little micro, scaled down sun. But the bit that tickles me pink, and I don't, I haven't looked into this, it's just hilarious on the surface. All of that conspiracy theory content, and it was all fear-mongering about how they were going to destroy the world by initiating this artificial sun. According to Popular Mechanics, this artificial sun was not China, but South Korea, or Korea. I have to look into it. Maybe it was North Korea that's doing this, and that's where the confusion comes. It just says Korea, and I really don't like it when they don't disambiguate. I'm looking at this thing. Apparently, I'm looking at a picture of a very large device. This is like a warehouse-sized thing with lots of piping and ducting and things. And apparently it reached 100 million degrees Celsius for 20 seconds, which is a new world record for fusion. So it's not the first time anyone's done this. But it doesn't say... It just says Korea Superconductor, K-Star. It doesn't tell me if it's North Korea or South Korea. This is bad journalism, folks. Because now I'm scrolling. There's a lot of advertisement for books about the end of the world with nuclear bombs. I'm sure I can look up, K-Star and find out if it's South Korea or North Korea. But this is Popular Mechanics. They're not some slapdash, fly-by-night, internet fake news junkie site. They're like legit, theoretically speaking. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting and fascinating and weird. Never is not an appropriate word to use in this case. I rarely have a script for this show. And when I do script a show out, it's for a specific reason. Today, I really don't have a script. And on top of that, my brain was just misfiring left and right. And it already feels like I've been rambling for an hour, and it's only been 11 minutes. There's so much going on, and there's so much that we don't even have the energy to pay attention to. And on top of that, there's so much going on to everyone around us. As we get through these final days of 2020, and we move through this interim week between Christmas and New Year's, which is always sort of like an extra lame duck week for me. When I was working, I'm usually so exhausted that I spend most of this week doing as little as possible. I've already done that all year. So I'm in a very weird place. I think I've already talked about this on the show, so forgive me for the redundancy, but I have never in my life spent this much time in my pajamas and been okay with it. It's okay to just lounge around in something comfortable if you're forced to stay home and you're doing your best to stay creative. I think you might as well be comfortable. I make no apologies for it. In fact, I kind of wish you could just wear your PJs out in public, although that's weird, right? Why did I just say that? I don't know. I'm a weirdo. Let's get meta. Since I didn't even have talking points for today's show, for which, to you, dear listeners, I sincerely apologize. Let's get meta and talk about the show itself. I know I do this every once in a while. Oh, and there was something really specific I wanted to look up, and I already realized that I completely forgot what it was. About this subject, like talking about the show. This show has been an interesting journey for me. It started out as a passion project. For those of you who are really new, 4.5 years ago, I was working in a theater. This is almost, about 4.5 years ago. I was in an interesting relationship that wasn't going to last through the rest of that year. And I was brainstorming fun, creative hobby activities that my partner at the time and I might do together. And one of the ideas that I came up with was this podcast show. This show was originally envisioned as a radio talk show style panel show. Me and a co-host and guests, or, something like that. Regular contributors. Needless to say, the course of events have flowed during those 4 years in such a way as that it is still me, just rambling at you. And the fact that some of you keep coming back, that gives me hope that this might actually turn into a popular show. And, well, it just fills me with gratitude. So thank you for tuning in. Some might be wondering, especially if you're really new and the content of the show seems a little chaotic at first, what, if any, objective I might have. Actually, I have several. A fundamental one is just plain old-fashioned self-expression. We are creatures that desire to express ourselves, even if we don't, because we're shy or insecure or any of the reasons that we might self-identify with or, obstruct ourselves with. It was also a concept I had for creating an artifact, and by artifact I mean a thing that exists in the real world, but is embedded in the body of work that I'm slowly working on. I'm an aspiring novelist, and I have a book series that I'm slowly grinding out. And if you can imagine in it, someone, and it's one of the stories in this book series is set in the future. Imagine, if you will, about 60 some odd years from now. Imagine a resurgence of what we've just lived through. A second wave, as it were, to borrow some 2020 terminology and reappropriate it. A second wave of Trumpism, and this fulfillment of this idea of like a legacy family that runs politics. I think somewhere in the mix of corruption and greed and lust for power and all the other things that motivate politicians like Trump, because he is a politician, no matter how many times he has kept saying that he's not. There's a mix of motivations, right? And it's dangerous, but easy and a little comforting to dehumanize them, vilify them, otherify them, and make them some absolute enemy, right? Both sides do it to each other. By they, I mean the system of oppression. And now that's a phrase I throw around a lot on the show. If you are a conspiracy theory enthusiast, you might at first think, oh, right on, this guy's into conspiracy theory. But my position, my view on conspiracy theory is nuanced and is most certainly not deep in the enthusiastic, blind faith support of any conspiracy theory that comes out. I like to do the one thing that conspiracy theorists are always patting themselves on the back for, and that's questioning the content. So as you start listening to more episodes, either future ones that I have yet to record or any from the vast backlog from the last 4.5 years, 4 years. I think officially my Sprecher account is just a little bit over 4 years old. Keep that in mind. This notion that there's this issue we have in our society, and that's that we use words in wonky and less than thoughtful ways, and then we just sort of water down their meaning. So my example is The Matrix. Lots of people run around talking about The Matrix like they know what The Matrix is. But take a survey. How many of them know that the root origin of the word matrix is a common root origin for the words mother and matter? And that spiritually speaking, matrix is actually a word that for many people a long time ago, and some people today, refers to the divine feminine, the material mother, the womb that gives birth to all that is flesh, the world, right? Like that's what the world is. Central to I'm basically sort of cobbling together a big thesis, not about any one particular subject, but a sort of, my overall worldview kind of theory. And one of the central pillars therein is indeed that we need to address our misuse of words. For example, just this year alone, I've encountered in my social media circles and groups and stuff and clubs that I belong to, a lot of posting of questions about the soul and whether or not we actually have one. Based on my own lifetime's worth of experience in questioning and spiritual seeking and investigating, questioning, and refusing to just assume I figured it out, I have come to some conclusions that I feel pretty confident about. And one of them is a bit of a curveball as I state it, but stick with me. Follow it through to the end. You do not have a soul. I do not have a soul. Nobody, no person in the human species has a soul. I'm not denying the existence of spirit. I'm pointing out that we talk about it in a disastrously misleading way. I've brought it up before, but I figured I'd work it in now. I humbly suggest to you that you contemplate and consider that you are soul. You're not a soul, you are the soul. You are the soul that has divided itself through a process of individuation to become and incarnate here in the body that you have. So you are a soul and you have a body. The same thing goes for consciousness. You are consciousness. You don't have consciousness. You don't generate consciousness. You are consciousness. And you are experiencing this body that you have. And everything that, all the input that the body can uptake. Why is that important, and how is that relevant to the state of the world? We'll get right to sort of the core of what this show about, and leave it there, make it a nice brief episode, as a way to welcome and introduce new listeners to what's going on in this project. I could be wrong, right? And please, please, please keep that in mind. No matter which episode you're listening to, I am painfully aware that I could be wrong. But I'll share with you my reasons for thinking the way I do. And 30 years of contemplating the big questions and the world around us as it presents itself. And I've come to some of these conclusions, right? And I've come to the larger overarching conclusion that politics is a self-generating machine of problems. In other words, it's a machine that generates problems under the guise, the banner, the excuse of solving them. Now, kind of like Trump, most of the problems that we face politically were created by politics. So it would seem to me incredibly unlikely that more politics is going to solve any of the problems. Now, should we burn the political machine to the ground? No, because that's violence. And forgive me for sticking to my guns here. Pardon the ironic use of not a pun. But violence is not a solution. 2020 has been a year riddled with violence and a lot of public discourse about that violence. Most of it based in judgment. Very little of it based on how do we solve the problems that caused the violence. Murdering murderers for having murdered makes us murderers. So what do? If you've been listening a long time, you know that my answer is laughably silly. We heal. We heal ourselves, we help heal each other, and we collectively heal the entire human species. Many people laugh this off. But it's fascinating to me that the system benefits from that. I often argue against conspiracy theory, and people jump to the conclusion that I naively do not believe in the cabal, in the Illuminati, in the system of oppression. Anyone who jumps to that conclusion is doing themselves and myself a disfavor, because that isn't the case. I'm well aware. There's a lot of people running around talking about how they're going to, future tense, establish the New World Order. I hate to break it to those people, but they got to catch up and realize that the New World Order ain't new, and it ain't getting set up. In fact, since Reagan, every president in office has talked about the New World Order. Red presidents, blue presidents. I think Trump replaced New World Order with Drain the Swamp. But he didn't drain the swamp. He just sort of remodeled the swamp in his own image and populated the swamp with his own monstrous children and nepotistic sycophants. Ultimately, though, I think that 2020 has made it clear that despite all of his boasting and bragging and like toxic masculinity about fighting the system, he's complicit with the system. I keep trying to point out how despite his attitude, despite his claims and statements, like every president since Reagan that I've been able to personally observe, the system still gets what it wants, no matter what else happens. So Trump has gotten away with a lot, and the system still got what it wants. And as I've been talking about recently, I think slowly but surely, I've been talking about this since the election, the first election, slowly but surely, more and more people that got swept up in the Trump movement are walking away. Would it have been nice if more of them had come to realizations about what was going on earlier? Absolutely. But here we are. Anyways, friends, I've rambled at you with no specific thing to say. And if you're new to the show and you're disappointed, I apologize. Sincerely. My show is not always this out of control. It threw me for a loop to realize that it was still Monday. Anyways, I'm going to play you a bit of DJ Zed from his album Starting Over, Beats Broken Will Jams, a Broken Beat 101 remix on Remix Live. And we're back. I have a bit of meta show news to share with you guys. We just broke a show history record. Right now, December 2020 is the single largest number of downloads in 1 month for this show. And I just want to say thank you. Deep and humble thanks to you. This show is something I started up kind of like on a whim, as I was saying, but also with a really specific creative vision which I've been unable to fulfill. And despite that, I've really grown quite fond of doing it, even though I realize it's really rough around the edges and it doesn't sound as professional as it could. I'm still getting to express myself and share my thoughts with the world in a way that, especially now during the pandemic, I could only do with theater and currently can't do. And even back when I could, I wasn't doing it every day. So every time I'm on the air, I express my gratitude. Right now, mind you, when I share the actual numbers, you guys are going to be like, there's nothing. Because it's not a lot of numbers. They're not very big numbers. But as of right now, for December, the show has gotten 1,294 downloads. And that's the biggest number all year since last January. The next closest one was 855 back in October. And everything else all month long has been a sort of interesting fluctuation up and down at much smaller numbers. So there's that. And it's exciting to me because if there's one thing that I've come to a conclusion about during the course of 2020, it's this. If I can turn this podcast, if I can grow this podcast, that's a better word. If I can grow this podcast to a large enough level, then I would love to do this every day as my job. So every time you listen to an episode, you help that goal become a reality. I don't pretend to have answers. I have lots and lots of questions. And I have some conclusions that I've come to in my life. And I'm just putting them out there for the sake of public discourse. And also for, that reason I was talking about a few episodes ago. I bring it up every once in a while, but it's one of the crazier things about my show. So I'm not going to touch on it now, but I just talked about it a couple of episodes ago. Maybe I'm just trying to get you to listen to more episodes. At any rate, I wish I'd had this realization and this surge of motivation closer to the beginning of 2020, because I'll be honest, I didn't try very hard in January or in February. And then, I tried a little bit, and then I kind of waffled, and then I just kept fluctuating. But I'm at a place now where I would like to push this show to be as professional, as entertaining, as interesting, as authentic, and as genuinely, its own thing as possible, in hopes that more and more people will find it interesting to listen to. If you know someone that might enjoy listening to this wacky show and might even want to contribute, share questions, comments, thoughts, etc., please do let them know how to find it. And if you're relatively new, I humbly invite you to jump around. You don't need to feel like you have to listen to every episode in order. And don't be put off by whatever localized current event may occupy the title. The show always sort of kicks off talking about current events and then spirals out to a larger area, because the whole thing is about sharing my thoughts, my opinions, and other people's thoughts, trying to get other people to share their thoughts about the nexus, the Venn diagram, the convergence, the place where politics and spirituality meet. Because I think that there's a real nexus there, but it's not something that we generally pay a lot of attention to. For those of you wondering, I don't endorse any specific organized religion. I don't endorse any specific political party. And in fact, something that I come back to quite often is the following notion. Organized religion is a distraction from spiritual practice. What we are called to spiritually is to engage in a spiritual practice that is best suited for ourselves individually, right? We are all individuals despite being a collective, and we all have our own independent and individual spiritual needs. I'm not peddling a religion. I'm not trying to get you to believe in me. I'm not trying to get you to buy into any doctrine or dogma. I'm sharing with you my thoughts and ideas that I've come across in my life, because I think these thoughts and ideas and subjects, they ask the questions that facilitate us as individuals to seek within, because that's where the real revolution is happening. All right, friends, I'm going to wrap it up for now, keeping this show super short, relatively speaking, and I'm going to wrap my head around the fact that I did not sleep overnight and that it's still Monday evening, and I'm now, I now feel like it's the start of a new day. Please forgive how disjointed and disorganized today's episode was. I got a little excited and ahead of myself. But as always, thank you. Thank you for listening. And if you want to go a step further, I'm going to tell you about something I'm doing. There's a little bit of that pain and shame about asking for help, right? I have, in recent episodes, and then throughout the year during the pandemic, I've tried to share that thought that people need help, and those who need help should be able to ask for help without shame, and there are others who need to help. I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I mean, they're positioned, they're capable, they're willing, they're able, and they're wanting to help. And there's a lot of different ways to help. And before I go any further, I fully understand that there are many other causes more important than my little show. But this lockdown, this extended inability to work in my professional career that I trained in, and, the facts on the ground indicating that things are not going to turn around until at least halfway through 2021, and this newfound interest and passion for the podcast all clashed recently. Before the lockdown, my plan for this year had been to invest a pretty big chunk of my own relatively meager income into the show, because there's a subscription for the service, there's a subscription plan for some of the other apps that I use in relationship to this show, and there's a subscription to some apps that I want to get into using. And having not worked for the entirety of 2020, I obviously was not able to do that. I've been able to survive. I'm in a situation where I'm full of gratitude and not pain and suffering. And I'm very well aware that there are many other people suffering much, much more. And I wish that I was in a position to be able to help more of them. But anyways, I'm bringing up this thing. I created a fundraiser on Facebook. And I don't think that sharing about it on the Sprecher platform violates the Sprecher EULA. But if it does, I'm begging your forgiveness now. But I started this fundraiser, and I feel kind of guilty for having started it because I'm not facing eviction when things unwind, right? I'm not, as of right now, my situation is not great, but it's not anywhere near as bad as other people. Simultaneously, I'm not going to be able to keep doing this project, and I'm not going to be able to expand this project into the larger, fuller version that I have envisioned, because I want to I want to expand this to be more than just a podcast where I ramble at you incoherently. I'm not going to be able to do that because I haven't worked, and I haven't been able to find a survival job because the market's flooded, and I'm overqualified in a silly career field that I love tremendously, but that no one else sees as applicable in, your average entry-level job. And I'm not the only one out there, having a hard time finding work. So if you appreciate what I do, if you appreciate the subjects that I'm talking about, if you appreciate the social media that I put out, and you want to support the show and support me in being able to do this more professionally and full time through the end of this year and through all of next year, I humbly invite you to visit the Facebook page for the Almost Daily Zencast. Pinned at the top is an announcement for the fundraiser. If you are not in a position to give, don't even stress. Don't feel bad. Focus on your needs and ask for the help that you need. If I were in a position to give everyone in the world $1,000, I would. Trust me. And here's to hoping that this Congress cranks out a $2,000 check for everyone before the transition. Because Trump claims he wants to get that done. And ironically, that's what the Democrats wanted. And the people obstructing that had been Trump's own GOP party. GOP, leadership. Let's hope for that. But yeah, I don't know who my listeners are, right? I just kind of get this vague general geolocation breakdown. And it's epic to me that there are people in Germany, the UK, Canada, France, Australia, Cyprus, Malta, Spain, and other places. I love that others, so strong percentage on the breakdown. 7.85% on the country analytics, and 64.85% on the city analytics, other. Anyways, that's my bumbling attempt to ask you, dear listeners, for your support. And honestly, hold on, let me reframe that. You already support this show and me as a creator by listening to it, right? This show, for the record, was, for the first 3 years, not monetized. It's still free to listen to. I'm never going to charge for the show. I don't like that. But it is now monetized through the Spreaker platform, and as annoying as it is, there's now advertising bundled with each episode. But that helps. And the more episodes you listen to, and I'm not supposed to tell you to listen to episodes because that's a violation of my EULA, but obviously you can come to the conclusion that if you appreciate what I'm doing, the more you listen, the more you support the show. But I'm going to wrap it up now because I'm rambling. I am putting that call kind of timidly out there. I don't expect anyone who is in dire straits or a rough situation or just getting by and surviving. I don't expect anyone who's reliant on the relief money to give me any of their money. So please don't. I don't expect anyone to give me money, but I should point out that 4 awesome, supportive, caring human beings that are friends of mine on social media have already donated, and I will forever be deeply in your debt and effusive with my gratitude. Thank you so much for the donations that have come in so far. Every little bit helps. I set a goal because I wanted to not just help the show survive, but I actually wanted to invest in the show this year. And through no fault of my own, I've been unable to work, right? So hopefully, some of you listeners that are enthusiastic about what this show is about and want to help can drop a couple bucks. Well, that's it, folks. I feel awkward and a little dirty for having asked you for your donations. Not in a, like, I judge people who run fundraisers kind of way, but in a, I can't believe I just did that kind of way. But thank you for listening. Thank you for taking an interest. And I humbly invite you to come on by to my social media platforms. Twitter. I don't use Twitter very much, but it's, for some people, it's the only platform. But it does share the show and sometimes, I think correctly, my posts on social media. But Instagram and Facebook. And of course, there's always Spreaker.com/show/Zencast. I hope you have a wonderfully groovy Monday evening. And I hope that tomorrow, Tuesday, you'll be able to join me for another episode. May peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.